This is Bedtime Stories, Grown-Up Edition, The Truth, Bonus Episode 4, Part 1. When we left off, we found out that Amira was potentially pregnant by a man whose name she didn't even know. We also found out her agenda and how she planned on accomplishing it. Her brother had spent 15 years of his life in prison, all because he chose to stand in the gap for her. And not only did he not know who his sister was, because she allowed him to do 15 years under false pretenses, but it was clear that she didn't know who her brother was either. Wise was an honorable man, a good man, who loved his family, a man who under any other circumstances would never choose to put someone that he loved, his family, in a life or death position. But 15 years in prison taught him some valuable lessons, including blood doesn't make family, and you can't save nobody who don't want to be saved. So when he told Q that his sister was trying to set Wood up, and Q said, "We gonna help her," Wise said, "I need to see Wood. I need to make things right." And Q asked, "Where your head at, man?" Wise said, "I don't regret the lengths that I went to save my sister and my mother. I've got to believe that everything that happened was supposed to happen. As painful as it all is, had this all worked out any other way, I would have never seen who my sister truly is. Our relationship was repairable. When I found out that she lied about why old boy had attacked her, it was repairable. When I thought that Amir had tricked her into setting up Big Wood, it was even repairable. When she was saying that all Amir had got her to do was those two things. But the minute I found out that she put my mother, my wife, my unborn child, and all of you in danger, her chances at redemption was shot. I don't care what plan you come up with. I'm down. And if she survives it, I'll kill her myself. And I won't even have a problem sleeping at night." Q said, "Let's solidify a plan and then get you to Puerto Rico." Over the next few days, a whole lot transpired. Wood continued his training of the soldiers and his therapy sessions. True continued journaling about the pregnancy. She decided to send Big Wood an update once per week. Portia was journaling on a daily basis and adding items to her needs list for Angela to bring up during her next visit. Zora was in hiding in Puerto Rico, but she was enjoying herself. She was getting to know Lorenzo and his family and keeping an eye on her little brother so that she could keep her mother updated. Stephanie and Corey were planning a small family-only wedding this go-round, and Corey's bid to become the pastor at the church in Puerto Rico had been accepted. So he was working on getting that church incorporated into the Salvation Center organization. God had given him 6 months to remarry his ex-wife, and there were only 5 months left. He and Stephanie decided that they'd remarry, move into the estate in Puerto Rico, just until Stephanie delivered the baby. And they could arrange for more permanent, secure lodging. Corey was already prepared for the fact that he'd lose some parishioners when the congregation learned that he was married to the niece of Emmanuel Lopez. While the Lopez family were members of the church and widely accepted in the local community, it was reasonable to expect that some of the parishioners would have issue with their pastor being married into a gangster's family. And they'd probably have a hard time visiting their pastor on the grounds of a heavily guarded estate owned by a gangster, even if they didn't know what Stephanie did for a living. Her goal may have been to be as low-key as possible and do all her work in the background after her maternity leave. But in the next several years, she'd be replacing her Uncle Manny. And since he wouldn't live forever, there would be questions about who was at the helm of the Lopez family, and she'd have to make a stand. Corey had decided that if God was on board with him remarrying Stephanie, then he'd work all that out. His current focus, though, was on his mentee and minister in training, Donovan Anthony St. James. In only a matter of days, everyone who could be would be at the Salvation Center of Dallas, bearing witness to Donovan preaching his initial sermon. After his release from captivity at Portia's hands, her death, and his quick marriage to Maribel, Donovan, Maribel, and the children returned to the States. Maribel moved into Donovan's house at the family complex, and they dedicated themselves to becoming a family. Doing so was not nearly as hard as anyone had expected because Maribel had already endeared herself to Donovan's children. The Queen Mother had enlisted her help with them and refused to take no for an answer when Donovan was in the DR making his bid to be Nigel's replacement and in treatment. All the other children in the family called her Aunt Maribel, Baby Chance and Baby Bella had taken to calling her Mimi. Baby Chance was enamored with his Mimi, and Baby Bella had become her shadow. She told anyone who would listen that she was going to be a doctor, just like her Mimi. She wanted her hairstyle like Maribel's, her nails painted the same color as Maribel's. And if she could have, she would have dressed like Maribel. But button-downs and pencil skirts just didn't look right on an almost 8-year-old. Both Maribel and Donovan were thankful for the Queen Mother's machinations because their new family was blending like a milkshake. And Donovan was able to pick up where he left off with his business and his spiritual studies. While it appeared that everybody had a secret, they were all coming out. And Donovan's secret that God had called him to ministry would be coming out the following weekend. Donovan had invited everybody. In addition to his immediate family and his extended family, he invited his father-in-law, his mother-in-law, his brother and sister-in-law, Alejandro Garcia and his wife, Idra, and his therapist from treatment. Even Renni planned to be in town for the big day. Donovan and Renni had had a long conversation. They both explained their positions, apologized for how poorly things were handled when Donovan was freed, forgiving one another and agreed to be friends. Renni had told Donovan all about her new man, and Donovan was happy for her. He said, so there's still a chance that you and Maribel can be friends? Renni said, oh, it ain't a chance in hell of that. I'm happy for you, and I like how she gets down. But as far as I'm concerned, she stole my man. Now I'm gonna let her have you, but no, I don't want to be her damn friend. Donovan said, you crazy as hell, girl. You taking your damn medicine? Renni said, yes, I am. Are you taking yours? Donovan said, yes, I am. I'm working on getting off of it again because I prefer natural remedies. But the combination I got going right now is working just fine. And after all I've been through, this is not the time for me to be changing up. Then Donovan shared with Renni just how difficult that whole situation with Portia actually was. He said, you have no idea how afraid I was that I was never going to see my kids again, that I was never going to live to be the man that my father worked so hard to shape and mold me into. Renni said, you were that man before you went in that cabin, Donovan. Donovan said, that's what everybody says, but I ain't feel like that man. As crazy as it sounds, I ain't feel like that man until I agreed to get Portia pregnant. Renni said, and now that she's dead, how does that make you feel? Donovan said, everything I feel is really about her. I feel like it was a wasted life. Like everything I did in that cabin was for nothing. I mean, she said the sinner's prayer, so I know she's in heaven, but I wanted so bad to get to see her live, to be healthy, see her own dreams come true. You know what I mean? Renni said, no, I don't know what you mean. That girl was crazy as hell. She tried to kill Maribel. And for all intents and purposes, she tried to kill you. You'd probably be dead right now if you wasn't in there slinging D like it was going out of style. Donovan laughed and said, as hard as it is to believe, all of that needed to happen, Renni. The same way you needed to trip out on cue so that you could get the help you really needed. She needed to do all that so that she could realize that she was worthy of love, that she could have a real friendship, that she was more than just the story of her creation and birth. You have no idea what that girl went through. And you don't know the nightmares that I've had since then. I'm still learning how to give it all to God. I think I finally made peace with it all. And I think that that'll be clear when you hear my sermon. Renni said, well, all I want for you, Donovan, is peace, love, happiness, and all the children you can stand. Is Maribel pregnant yet? Since everybody else seems to be. Everybody but me. I'm not pregnant, Donovan said. She wants us to be married for at least a year or two. But you already know I'm ready. If nothing else, Portia's death affords me an opportunity to become a father again the right way. What a wife. I can't wait to share that experience with baby Chance and baby Bella. Renni said, they not babies no more. Donovan said, I know, but in honor of their namesakes and to keep down confusion, we all just say baby in front of their names. Renni said, well, y'all gonna have to come up with something else. And I don't mean no harm, but nobody is going to confuse your baby Chance with your brother Chance, because your brother is in heaven. Donovan said, you're right, that's my big man. He a little too old for baby. But my little girl, she always gonna be my baby. Renni said, I sure hope you're not treating them kids different because one of them is a girl. They damn near twins. Donovan said, you don't understand daddies and daughters. Renni said, no, I don't, because my father died before I was born, remember? Donovan said, that's right. I'm sorry. Well, one day you're gonna have a little girl, and she gonna have her daddy wrapped around her finger. And knowing you gonna be mad as hell because you're gonna have to compete for your man's affection. Renni said, yeah, I don't think God would do that to me. Because we all know how competition works out when I'm involved. Donovan said, right. Meanwhile, at the house where Mrs. Ali and Amira were staying, Star and Amira had hit it off. They'd been communicating by phone and email about Amira's preferences, color schemes, decor options, the type of atmosphere that Amira wanted to create. And Amira had expensive taste. Star was finally in town and she'd been in Dallas for several days. She and Amira were going room to room, making final selections, looking at photos that Star had taken at local furniture stores, and items that she'd found online and at a variety of stores for the decor. The two women were standing in Amira's bedroom when Star got a phone call, a planned phone call. She sent the call to voicemail, and when the person called back, Amira said, "Do you need to take that?" Star said, "I'm sure it's not anything important. He can wait. Mrs. Ali is an important client, and she's given me some wonderful opportunities. I don't want to mess that up, answering that call and getting into a shouting match with him." Amira said, "Girl, you fine. Go ahead and take your call. I am not going to tell my sister-in-law anything about your conversation." Star said, "Well, I don't want to be unprofessional, and he has a tendency to push my buttons." Amira said, "Yeah, I know how niggas do. But girl, you fine. I like you. Go ahead and take your call." Star said, "I'm going to just step into the living room." Then she took the call and had a knockout, drag-out argument with some man. Amira, who could not help but be nosy, tiptoed out of the bedroom and down the stairs and ear hustled on the conversation. When it sounded like it was wrapping up, she strolled into the room and asked, "You good?" Star said, "Girl, yeah. Thank you for being so understanding. I still want to apologize, though. Again, I'm not trying to be unprofessional." Amira said, "Girl, we all have stuff we got to deal with. Ain't nothing unprofessional about you taking a personal call. I mean, you stepped out of the room. I'm sorry. I hope I didn't interrupt." Star said, "No, I was done talking to him." Amira said, "If you don't mind me asking, what's going on?" Star said, "You sure you don't mind? Because I could really use some advice." Amira said, "Girl, sit down. Let's chat." And then Amira and Star took a seat on the couch, and Star told Amira all about her fictitious boyfriend and the problems they were having. Amira gave Star her best terrible advice, and Star pretended to suck it all up. When they were done, Star thanked Amira profusely for listening to her problem, giving her such great advice, and then she said, "If there's anything that I can do to help you, to show my appreciation, you just let me know. I'm going to make sure this place is decked out just how you want it, but your sister-in-law and your brother are paying for that." So Amira said, "As a matter of fact, there is something you can help me with. I need to make a phone call. And knowing my brother, this phone is probably bugged." She held up the cell phone that Wise had given her in place of her own and said, "Now, I'm going to block your phone number, but I would really appreciate it if you'll let me use your cell phone to make a call real quick." Star said, "Girl, sure, no problem. Here you go," and handed her cell phone. The cell phone that Q had provided her. A cell phone that was bugged. Amira said, "If you don't mind, I'm going to take this call in the bathroom." Star said, "Just come upstairs when you're done. I'll go in the room with your mother and help her make her final selections." Amira said, "Thanks, girl. I appreciate it." Then she stepped out of the room and went into the powder room. Then Star went up to Mrs. Ali's bedroom. Inside, she said, "So, Mrs. Ali, I believe that I have everything that I need. Your daughter has made all of her selections for the furniture, decor, accessories, linen, for her bedroom, bathroom, the guest room. She's done the living room, dining room, and the kitchen. Do you want to review your selections again? Are there any last-minute changes that you want to make?" Mrs. Ali said, "Girl, no, I'm fine. But I do want to see what it is that my daughter has selected." When Star showed Mrs. Ali the tablet and scrolled through all of Amira's selections, Mrs. Ali said, "That's damn ridiculous. It's nice and you did a good job, but who the hell needs a $10,000 couch? Who does she think is going to sit on it? The Queen of England? Sweetheart, I have furniture at home that's older than you. You do know that this is not our house, right? This is temporary." Star said, "I'm aware," but Mrs. Ali said, "But nothing. I thought that my son had provided a budget." Star said, "He did." Mrs. Ali said, "This cannot be in the budget. You know what? You go to one of those big box stores, rooms to go, whatever, and you get whatever fits in that daughter of mine's color scheme for each of these rooms. And that's going to have to suffice." Star said, "Well, I don't really feel comfortable making changes," but Mrs. Ali said, "You call my daughter-in-law and you let her know that I said I am not pleased. My son and my daughter-in-law work hard for their money. It's theirs to do with as they please. But I will not allow my daughter to live out her fantasies and delusions of grandeur on their dime. As a matter of fact, I'll call Salema myself. Now, I'll make sure that you are fully compensated for all of your hard work. But I'm not standing for this." When Amira was done with the phone and she came upstairs to her mother's bedroom, Star said, "Well, I believe that I have everything that I need. I'm going to go ahead and head out. Amira, can you walk me to the door?" When they left the room, Amira slipped Star her cell phone while asking, so how long is it going to take for this furniture to come? I have plans this weekend and I'd love to be able to break in my new bed. Star said, you can definitely expect your bedroom furniture to arrive before this weekend. It'll probably take 6 to 8 weeks for that couch, though. They don't have tons of those just sitting around in a warehouse. Amira said, that's reasonable. Star said, like we discussed, all of the furniture and all of the items that need to be delivered will be delivered to a storage facility, and I'll receive notifications of every delivery. To make this all as seamless as possible, I'll notify Mr. Ali when all of the items associated with a particular room or area have arrived, and he'll have it transported here. And I'll be on hand to ensure that everything is set up the way that you want. Star said, I love that you are so hands-on. Now, just so we're clear, I won't mention your little phone call, and you won't mention mine. Star said, oh, absolutely. When Star checked her phone, Amira had deleted whatever calls she'd made. But when Star got back to the firm, Salema let her know that they'd heard the entire conversation on both sides, and they knew exactly who Amira had called. Salema said, you did good, girl. Now let me see this furniture this heifer thinks she's getting. Salema went through the selections and approved everything that Mrs. Ali selected, and directed Star to select reasonably priced, very economical substitutions for everything that Amira had selected. Salema said, and put a rush on everything. I need it all delivered before this weekend. The following day, in parts unknown, True just ended a heated discussion over the phone with her benefactor. They'd gone back and forth, around and around the mulberry bush, until True finally got all the information that she wanted. Wood was heading back to Texas, and he was going to play Amira's game. Her benefactor had made it clear to her that Wood was going back into his finisher's bag of tricks. He was going to do whatever he had to do to get the information that the families needed out of Amira, to get her to comply with that DNA test, and to beat Amira and her co-conspirators at their own game. He was probably going to do some things that True would not like. She was probably going to get a taste of her own medicine, because Amira didn't just want clothes and furniture and decor. She wanted Big Wood, and she didn't just want him for the weekend. She wanted him for forever. And her plan was to play both sides. She'd let her contact Nota be on point, because Big Wood was coming to town. They demanded information, and she'd given them some. And while she hadn't disclosed the location of Wood's house or where Maribel's office was located, she had provided them the address of the lab where the DNA test would be performed if and when Big Wood came to town. Since she didn't know when that would be, she couldn't tell them exactly when she'd be at that address, but they'd promised to ensure that she'd have the ability to contact them when she was there. And True was fuming. She hit the running trail and ran her 5 miles, and when she made her way back to the house, she was still amped up. During her cool down, Bosch caught up to her and said, I'm about to go hit the bag. True just acknowledged that she'd heard him by nodding her head. She was not in a talking mood. Bosch said, you good? True said, no, but I will be. Bosch said, I know you don't like to talk about your personal business, but if you need to talk, I'm a good listener. True said, I bet. We're not friends, Bosch. We not gonna be friends. We not gonna trauma bond. I'm not gonna pour my heart out to you, cry on your damn shoulder. You wanna help? Find me some people I could kill. But other than that, leave me alone. Bosch said, got it. If you change your mind, I'm gonna be in the gym. He headed in that direction, and True just shook her head. For the last week or so, Bosch had stayed in his lane. He'd stayed out of her way, procured his own groceries, made his own meals, and on the one occasion when she accidentally on purpose ate his leftovers, he didn't say a word. In her room, she was tempted to write Wood and caution him to keep it cute, not to do anything with Amira that he didn't want her to do. She was having flashbacks of the conversation they'd had, and he'd questioned her about what she'd done with Amir. She remembered the look on that man's face, and she regretted playing her hand so heavy. She thought to herself, it ain't no fun when the rabbit got the gun. And before she knew it, she was imagining Big Wood, putting all that wood on Amira. She needed a distraction. She needed out of that house, but she didn't have another mile to run in her. It was too cold for a swim. And the book that Pastor Tanya had her reading, Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus, was just gonna piss her off even more. Then she remembered that Bosch was in the gym. He said he was going to hit the heavy bag. According to Maribel, she had another few weeks before she'd have to hang her gloves up. So she decided she'd join him. She'd also decided to find out what his interests were, because when he thought she wasn't looking, she'd seen him checking her out. And if the things that she'd heard about Brutal Bosch were true, he just might be good for more than security.